قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this live new episode of Ask Zad. Our first caller for tonight is Zainuddin from the UK. Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, Sheikh?
I'm doing well, Alhamdulillah. How are you, Zain?
I'm good, thank you. I have a question that I've always had on my mind.
Okay.
How can we determine if a hadith is authentic or not?
How can you determine what?
If a hadith is authentic or not. And how can we determine the hadith is unauthentic?
So you're asking about how do we know the authenticity of a hadith?
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions?
My second question is what should I do? How can I be a righteous child? Because how can I be a righteous child to my parents?
Okay.
And my third and final question is it permissible for me to for example, what we do sometimes.
I'm unable to hear you, Zain. Your microphone is being distorted by either your blanket or your clothes or what? Are you there?
Yeah.
So you
Muslims, is it permissible for me to say one day mataram, which means I bow down to my mother's land? One day mataram.
Okay. I will answer you, inshallah. So Zain's first question, how do we know the authenticity of a hadith? And this is understood if you ask yourself, how do I know whether the medication the doctor is prescribing to me or for me is a good one, or is it or whether it is a poison? This is too extreme. Those who are knowledgeable, those who are acknowledged to be scholars of hadith in the whole world, like Sheikh Al-Albani, for example, their words is taken for granted because this is a profession and everybody acknowledges this. And, excuse me, and also a surgeon or a physician who's an expert, who's a professor, who knows what he's doing, and everybody says that he's the best in his field, when he gives you and prescribes for you a medication, you will take it. So it's almost the same thing. Ibn Zahir or Zahir from India.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, I have 3 questions.
Yes, sir.
First one of my cousins is very poor and he struggles. He is a Sayyid. Can I give him zakat?
Okay. He's a Sayyid, huh?
He is a Sayyid, yes.
Okay. Second question.
Second question. Sheikh, my college fee, it's a huge amount. It is due on me. The college people should have asked us to pay the college fee this year by Ramadan. But Ramadan passed by and they did not ask me any college fee so far. They haven't asked it yet. So do I have zakat from this amount or wait till the college people ask me to pay it?
I did not understand your question. What quality?
My college fee.
College fee.
It's a
Okay.
college fee. It's a huge amount. The college people have not asked for it yet. They may be asking it in 2-3 months' time from here. So until then, do I have to pay zakat from that amount or wait till the college people ask me to pay it?
Okay. Third question?
Yeah, third question. I'm a doctor, Sheikh. When I attend the patients, there are some medical representatives who advertise their medicines and request us to prescribe their medicines. We also prescribe it. They also offer us costly gifts. Can I take that gift?
Okay. I will answer, inshallah. Sajid from Bangladesh.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salamullah.
Sheikh, how are you?
I'm doing well. Jazakallah khair. What can I do for you?
Yeah, Sheikh. My first question is, I have a friend. So he has this problem of incontinence, not 24/7. So sometimes when he prays, he goes into ruku or something, he feels that a few drops have leaked or something like that. So I asked him if this is wiswas or not, and he says it actually soils his clothes. So he can physically see it happening. So sometimes what happens is that if he waits for 30 minutes or 1 hour, then the waiting helps and the thing doesn't leak. But sometimes if he waits, it doesn't help. So he can predict it sometimes and he can't. So in this case, should he continue with his wudu and pray straight away, or wait for some time and then pray?
Okay. I will answer you, inshallah.
And Sheikh, second question.
Yes.
Sheikh, my second question is, I have a roommate who is a strict follower of a madhab, and he's like much older than me. So I was just hoping if you could give some tips on how to give dawah to him.
Okay.
Yes, Sheikh.
That's all?
Yeah, that's.
Okay, I will answer, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Zainuddin from UK says, how can I be a good, righteous, practicing child for my parents? Well, to be righteous and practicing, you have to follow the Quran and the Sunnah. To be a good, dutiful, obedient, and respectful child for your parents, you have to please them and to combine between the both, because you cannot separate them. The priority comes to Quran and Sunnah. The priority comes to following the religion of Allah. The priority comes for Sharia. So you can combine both by obeying them, by being respectful, by being dutiful within the boundaries of Sharia. So you make them happy while practicing the deen and not crossing the line if this pleases them. So if they want you not to pray Fajr and this pleases them, you must disobey them, because in this you're displeasing Allah Azza wa Jal. If they want you to go with them shopping, this pleases them and there's nothing haram in that, so go ahead with them. If they want you to become healthier by eating healthy food which you do not like but you know that it's good for you, then doing it is also part of obeying Allah Azza wa Jal, and they would love that from you, inshaAllah. His third and last question, he said that a phrase which translates to, I bow to my mother country. No, this is not permissible to say or to do. And I think there is something similar to that, like in Japanese or in Hindi, it's called namaste or namastai or whatever. And it means I bow to you, and this is not permissible as well. This is not permissible at all, because we Muslims only bow to Allah Azza wa Jal. Even if the culture of my country or my tribe is to bow or to squat or to prostrate, I do not do this because I'm a Muslim first, and my religion governs everything else. And this is why we say, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Say that verily my prayers, my sacrifice, my life and my death are all for Allah Azza wa Jal. I'm driven by the Sharia, by the Quran and the Sunnah, and not by the customs or the culture. So saying such a statement is totally prohibited, and Allah knows best. Fatima from India.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salamtullah.
Sheikh, I have a question.
Yes.
There is a lady. She reverted to Islam. Okay, I helped her, and she was living with me. Okay, and she did not disclose her conversion to anyone. She is a married woman. She did not tell her husband or anyone in her family. And now I came to know that she was married to someone in a Muslim. And is her nikah is valid, as she did not take divorce from her previous husband? She did not tell him anything, and now she is living with Muslim man.
Okay. Second question.
But just I want to know that is this nikah valid?
Okay.
She did with a Muslim without.
I will answer you, inshallah. Yusuf from the UK.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you, Shaykh?
I'm doing well. Jazakallah khair. What can I do for you?
Alhamdulillah. I have three quick questions, Shaykh, inshallah.
Yes.
My first question is, how do we remove impurity from electronic items such as laptops, remotes, cables, etc., without damaging them with too much water?
Okay.
My second question is, I have a thin beard where you can see the skin underneath.
You have what?
A thin beard.
Don't understand.
My beard is thin, so I can see the skin, my skin underneath my beard.
Underneath your beard?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So in wudu, should I be using the same water I use to wash my face? Should I be washing my beard with that, or should I be washing my beard separately after my face?
Okay. Any more questions?
And just one last question, Sheikh. The water that you use to remove impurity, does that water also become impure? So should we then wash where that original water reached to? It's like, when does the area become clean?
Okay.
If you understand.
Yes.
Barakallah.
Barakallah feek. Nabiha from Saudi.
Hello?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you?
I am fine, alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm fine too. I have a question.
Yes.
My mom went for Hajj. So she was sitting, so she saw a mosquito on her hand and she bit it. What is the ruling for it?
Your mom went to Hajj.
Yes.
And she had nail polish?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
What did she have on her hands?
She had nothing, but a mosquito was sitting on her hand.
She had...
So she bit it.
Okay. A mosquito.
Yes.
And she killed it.
Yes.
Did it suffer? Did the mosquito suffer?
I was not there.
Okay. I will answer you, Nabiha, inshallah. Any more questions?
My mom actually bit it.
Your mom is what?
What?
You said your mom actually did what?
My mom actually bit the mosquito.
Okay, I will answer you, inshallah. Abdullah from Canada.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
Salam wa barakatuh. I'm doing well. Jazakallah khair. What can I do for you?
Sheikh, I have two questions for you. Sheikh, my first question is, what's the ruling on playing chess in Islam?
Okay.
My second question is, Sheikh, in regards to someone I know where he's married and he lives with his parents and his wife, but he wants to move out, but his parents don't want him to, but his wife wants him to. So who does he listen to?
Okay. I will answer you, inshallah.
Thank you. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa jazakum hayyakumullah. I think Abdul Samad is on the line, and maybe we will take a break afterwards. I don't know. Abdul Samad?
Yes, sir.
Where are you from?
I'm from KSA, from Saudi Arabia.
Hayyakallah. Yes, akhi. What can I do for you?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam. Can you mute your TV and listen to me from the phone, please?
Yes, I did, Sheikh.
Yes, akhi. What can I do for you?
Sheikh, I have 4 questions, but I will be quick. I know you have a lot, but I will be quick, Sheikh.
Three is good, Abdul Samad. 3 is good because Allah
Okay,
witr
Sheikh.
and He loves witr.
Okay, Sheikh, thank you.
1.
Okay, Sheikh, my first question is that I was reciting Quran a few days ago, and usually I stutter on some letters. I stuck on some letters like ta and so on. So I was reading it, and I stuck on a verse which had a letter ta. So I was forcing myself to pronounce it. While I was forcing myself to pronounce it, I was having a feeling that I might read it wrong if I force myself. So, but I ignored the feeling and I continued with it. But when I read the letter, it was all correct. But I'm afraid that is it like mocking the Quran or disrespecting the Quran, because I was having this dispute that I might read it wrong. So, is there anything on me?
2.
Okay. My second question is, while praying, if someone reciting Fatiha or any obligatory azkar of the prayer, if he stops in middle, so for example, if he's suffering from waswas, so he says Alhamdulillah and he stops over there. Then he repeats it again and then he stops again. Does this invalidate his prayer because it changes the meaning, I think? So is the prayer invalid in this case?
Okay.
And my third and last question is that if a person does wudu, but he did something which he does not know whether this invalidates it or not, and he is hesitant to say that his wudu is valid, and he is at the same time hesitant to say that his wudu is invalid, and he goes and prays with it, so is his prayer valid with it? And it happens very often with him. It happens very often with him. Almost every single time he does wudu, it happens with him.
Can you give me an example?
Like, for example, he was getting a feeling that he is showing off to people while doing wudu. He is showing off. So he had this type of feeling, and which happens a lot of the time. And this type of showing off is not that he's making his wudu good to make it to see people, but he, for example, opens the water tap very slowly so that it would not make noise and it would not annoy people, or people would not become angry on him that he is making so much noise while doing wudu. So he does these type of actions. Is his wudu valid?
Okay, I will answer you inshallah, bi'idhnillah. Jazakallah khair. Okay, I think we're going to answer the questions we have. MashaAllah, so many people calling. Ibn Zahir says from India, I have a cousin who is poor and he belongs to the descendants of the Prophet ﷺ. He's a Sayyid. So can we give him from Zakat? The answer is, it's an issue of dispute, and the most authentic opinion is that they can be given from Zakat as long as the Muslim government does not provide for them, because it is part of the Muslim government to give for the descendants of the Prophet ﷺ, and they have a share in the treasury of the Muslims. Unfortunately, this is not being practiced, and hence you can just ask them to die. So they are eligible for zakat if they are poor or needy. He says that his second question, that he has the college fees and it is due within 2 to 3 months, but in Ramadan it is his zakat date. So the zakat over the college fees is due. Must he pay the zakat or wait for the 2-3 months to give it to the college? The answer is no, he has to. Once the money you have has completed a whole full lunar Hijri year, then you have to give zakat if it reached the threshold. Whether the money was collected to get married or to perform Hajj with or to take your kids to hospital or for any other reason, as long as the conditions have been fulfilled, you have to give zakat. His third question was about the gifts that sales representatives of pharmaceutical companies give to doctors. Now, the question would be, is exactly that which the Prophet ﷺ posed to Ibn al-Lutbiyah. And he's a companion whom the Prophet ﷺ employed to go and collect the zakat from different regions of Arabia. So the man came back, may Allah be pleased with him, and he said, "O Prophet of Allah, this is your portion, this is your zakat, and this was given to me. So the Prophet was angered by this, alayhi salatu wasalam. And he went up the pulpit and he praised Allah, offered salutation upon the Prophet ﷺ, said, how come we employ people to do work for us and they come back saying that this is yours and this was given to me? Wouldn't they have stayed home at their mother's houses and look whether people give them gifts or not? This means that the gifts the people had given to that companion was not because he had brown eyes, or he was from that tribe or this tribe, or for his qualifications. They gave him this as a bribe because of the position. So you, as a doctor, Ibn Zahir, if you stayed home and you were not a doctor, if you were the admin in the hospital, would any of the doctors give you a business class ticket for you and for your family to a Goa resort in India for 3 days to attend a conference? Definitely not. They're doing this to promote their medications so that you always prescribe it. Or they give you a watch, they give you a laptop, they give you a PDA. All of these are clear riba, and it's prohibited for you to accept. Sajid from Bangladesh, he says that he has a friend that has urine incontinence, which he thinks he has. Now, I beg to differ, because urine incontinence usually is something that is continuous. There is something wrong physically. So drops keep on coming 24/7 hours, 7 days a week. But what differentiates urine incontinence from whispering of shaitan is that the whispering of shaitan comes after urinating by 5 or 10 minutes, and then it stops. And usually it comes when you perform wudu and you want to pray. But if you just urinate and go back to your PlayStation or to whatever you were doing, nothing happens. So this is a clear indication that this is from shaitan. And why do I say it's from shaitan? Because you would not have discovered that you've soiled your clothes until you go afterwards and search into your underwear, maybe squeeze your private part and try to see something, which is all from shaitan. And the best way to do is, after you urinate, wash your private part, sprinkle water on your underwear and leave after doing wudu. Whenever you get the feeling that something came out, convince yourself that this was the water you had sprinkled and the water that you've washed your private part with. It's difficult. But if you manage to conquer this, after 5 days or 7 days, inshallah, it will totally cease and disappear. You would not have the feeling anymore, because shaitan is fed up and he goes and leaves you. But the moment you get weak and you try to squeeze yourself or to try to search and look, it will come back again. Allah knows best. His second question, Sajid from Bangladesh, says that my roommate is a blind follower of a madhab. How can I make da'wah to him? Akhi, you can lead a horse to water. You cannot force the horse to drink. Yes, the horse would come with you all the way to the river, but you can't put the horse's head in the water and force it to drink. So the best way of convincing such blind followers is to study the Quran and to the Sunnah. That's it. The Quran is there for everyone to see and read. And the Sunnah of authentic Sunnah of Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, and all the 4 books of the Sunnah, etc. They're all there. Let's study them. If you're a true Muslim, if he declines, like some of the people say that no. Difference of opinions and studying fiqh makes people dispute and fills their heart with enmity and grudges against one another. This is ignorance. This is total ignorance. Allah Azza wa Jal ordered us in the Quran, if you still believe in the Quran, that if you have a dispute among one another, refer it back to Allah and to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning refer it back to the Quran and to the Sunnah. So whenever we have a dispute about an issue in fiqh, we have to go back to the Quran and the Sunnah. But if your roommate is a blind follower he doesn't care what the Quran says. He doesn't care what the Prophet says, alayhi salam. All what he cares about is what Imam Ahmad or what Imam Shafi'i or what Imam Abu Hanifa or what Imam Malik say. This is it. He doesn't care. This is bad news. This person is bad news. You don't talk to such people who are blind followers, refusing to implement the Shahada, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. They're refusing to implement it in their lives. And this is no. This is set aside, despite our conviction in it or not. What we believe in is our school of thought. This is what we will follow till the end of times. So, you have to weigh the pros and cons and see what you can do. Fatima from India says, I have a friend who got reverted to Islam, Alhamdulillah, but she's married and her husband and family do not know of her conversion. Then she went or ran away and married a Muslim man. Is this marriage valid? This is something that they have to, or she has to go and consult a Muslim court about it. Now, the general rule, when a woman accepts Islam, her non-Muslim husband is invited to Islam. And this is a must. Maybe he doesn't want to accept Islam. So after her iddah is over, she becomes haram for him. And she can go and marry someone else. But if she did not invite him to Islam and he doesn't know about her Islam and she just runs away like that, this is not logical and there's something wrong, and she has to consult the Muslim court in this regard. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah we'll be right back.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about the book Interactions of the Greatest Leader. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded us through his guidance and example that Islam is complete submission to the will of Allah. For one who submits, a mere declaration or display of belief will not be taken for success, but his or her heart and soul will certainly be put to test. Allah tested the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam severely in order that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes an example for his companions to follow. Similarly, he tests the believer to see whether he lives a righteous life in accordance with the instructions and commands set by Allah, or lives according to what his desires dictate. Whether the faith he displays is firmly rooted in his heart, or is it merely on the surface. He will be tested to see whether he will continue to have faith and love of Allah when in a calamity, as he does when in comfort, whether he will continue to remember and worship him if given bounties and comforts of life, as he does when he lives a modest life. Allah will undoubtedly test him to see if his faith, trust and love of him is unconditional, or is it conditioned upon good health and a comfortable life, free from stress and anxiety. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us through his own example that for a righteous Muslim, this life is a testing ground where he will continue to be tested until he meets Allah. For him, tests will be conducted on earth while he lives, and not after he dies. He knows that as soon as death arrives and he steps into the next world, his tests are over. There, he only receives the result of his tests and enjoys the fruits of the deeds that he committed during a short span of time called life.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. We have Labib from Bangladesh.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well. Jazakallah khair.
Alhamdulillah, Sheikh. I got you after so much struggle.
Alhamdulillah. Do your best as quick as possible before the line is cut.
Okay. Sheikh, can I ask you? I have 3 questions, Sheikh.
Go ahead.
Okay, my first question is, we know that the wearing the gold for men is haram. We know that. Yes. Now, what about like using the gold? Like, for example, there are many mobile phones we have. In these mobile phones, the processors that are used are made of gold. So what is the ruling on this? Like buying this phone or selling them? My first question. Okay. My second question is that we know, like, there is a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari that the Abu Bakr slave earned haram money and he didn't eat because the Prophet ﷺ said that the body which is earned by haram money will not go to Jannah. But you said, Sheikh, that the person who is earning is haram, but who is eating is halal for him.
Okay.
I want to clarify about this, Sheikh.
Understood.
And my third, okay, Sheikh.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. But my third question is that, Sheikh, for example, now about the inheritance, Sheikh. Now, if someone has haram inheritance, if someone's father has haram inheritance or haram and halal mixed, what about his offspring getting those inheritance? Will it also be permissible for him? And what is the clear evidence for it to be halal? Because there are many da'iyas who are saying that no, it's not permissible even if it's haram.
Okay.
Please, Sheikh, clarify this.
I will,
okay,
inshallah.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Barakallah fiqh. Yusuf from the UK. He says that if we have an impurity on an electronic device, a mobile, a PDA, a computer, how to remove this impurity? Yusuf, if you see the impurity visible, and it's not only doubts, no, I think something came, I may have done this or that, may, or I think, or perhaps, take it and throw it in the dustbin. You don't need doubts to change the certainty. The certainty is that the pen is pure. Actually, it's not my pen. I came into the studio and I found the pen with a pad on my table. So there is a possibility that the sheikh before me who was using this pen had impurity on his hand, and now it transformed or transferred into mine, and then I touched my scarf, and then I touched my keys of the house and entered the house, and the whole house is nabak or najis, so I have to burn it down to the ground. These are whispers of Shaytan. And I get counseling sessions like crazy and questions on my email like crazy. And I'm talking about the hundreds of emails I get a week on this topic. Knowledge erases all doubts and whispers of Shaitan. So, this is my mobile. Does it have an impurity on it? Yes, Sheikh. Are you sure? Are you certain? He said, definitely, I can see the impurity. In this case, the mobile phone is slick and soft. It's not like a harsh wood or pieces of bricks that cannot be wiped. See, the surfaces are two types. Surfaces that are so smooth, like the blade of a sword. So if there's a najasa in the blade of a sword or a knife, I just wipe it well, I can see that there's nothing on it. Glass, metal, it's the same thing. But if it has a rough surface, like wood that is not, I don't know, how used sandpaper on it, it's still rough. Wiping this does not do the job. You have to wash it. So with your mobile phone, with your electronic devices, all what you have to do is just get some a little bit damp paper or cloth and wash it and wipe it, and this is it. But if you're not certain, then to begin with, you should not do anything, because doubts do not impact certainty. Second question is that he has a thin beard that he can see the traces of his skin. So I hope the director shows my close-up. Yeah. So this is thick. You cannot see my fingers underneath, but this area is thin. So if your beard is as thin as this, and you can see the skin, so the water you wash your face with is sufficient. You don't have to take another water like for my beard. This is the sunnah. Again, the Prophet used to wash his face 3 times, and then at the end fills up his hand and does this, so that the inside is thoroughly touched by water. It's not soaked. I'm not going to get this and put it in a cup and make it soaked in water. No, I'm not going to cook it. So it's just this. But if your beard is thin and you can see the skin, what you wash your face with does the job sufficiently, insha'Allah azza wa jal. And thirdly, he says the water that we wash an impurity with, does it become impure itself or not? This is an area that Shaytan penetrates our minds easily with. The hadith of the nomad who came and urinated in the masjid. The Prophet ﷺ told them after he was over to throw a bucket of water on it, and that's it. No drying, no wiping, nothing. The scholar said because the water overwhelmed the impurity, it mixed with it and it diluted it. So when you wash yourself from najasa and you use water, the amount of water you're using to wash this najasa, whether on your body or on a carpet or whatever, overwhelms the najasa. So if there's a spot on the carpet that a child urinated in, and I can see it, I pour on it water to overwhelm it, then I can dry it, I can suck it with a special hoover that is for liquids or whatever, and that does the job. But to wipe it and then dry and wipe and dry without putting water on it does not do the job, and Allah knows best. Nabiha says her mother was in the state of ihram and a mosquito fell on her hand, so she killed it. Any problem? No problem at all. Even if it had blood in it, there's no problem. Your hajj, your everything is fine, and you are safe bi'idhnillahi azza wa jal. Abdullah from Canada says, what's the ruling on playing chess? Chess is an issue of dispute among scholars. Some scholars say that it is totally prohibited, and they narrate a hadith that Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, passed by people praying chess, and he said, "Ma hadhihi at-tamathil allati antum laha aakifun?" What are these idols that you are worshipping? This is being quoted from the Quran for those who were worshipping idols and not playing a game. So a lot of scholars say that this is haram on the basis that it wastes time and that it is not befitting of a Muslim to engage in such games, and there is a probability that one would miss the salat and a probability of gambling. And with all due respect, I believe that all of these justifications are not accurate. Everything nowadays can waste your time. So what's the ruling on screening your WhatsApp or Facebook or Twitter? What's the ruling on taking a ride for 2-3 hours with the guys, with the boys, hanging out at cafes, drinking coffee, etc.? It's halal. But how do I define whether it's wasting time or not? If I'm not playing around and being distracted from my obligations, I'm doing my prayer on time, I'm doing my obligations towards my parents, my wife, my children, my work, my studies, and I have free time and I would like to waste it and entertain myself in halal means, what's wrong in that? My prayer is done in the masjid, no problem. There's no gambling, there's no swearing. So some scholars said that it is haram. Other scholars said that it is totally permissible because it makes you think, it makes you strategize, and it is something beneficial for your brain, providing that the conditions are fulfilled. Your prayer is done on time, there's no gambling, there's no swearing, there's no cheating, you're not being distracted from your obligations. And the knight, when you play chess, I think it's on the format of a horse. And this is a statue. It has to be covered because this is totally haram to have. This is a statue, a 3D statue of a horse. So you break the head of the knight or put a helmet on it, whatever, it's a knight after all. Do something. And I think there's nothing wrong in doing it for half an hour a day for those who are focused on doing their obligations and need time out to entertain themselves. Abdullah's second question is that a person who's married and he lives with his parents and his parents want him to live with them in a joint family system, but his wife wants him to live separately. Who should he obey? The answer is your wife, because this is her given right in Islam to have an accommodation that befits her and that is separate from everybody else. So if you can manage to have a separate suite for her in your family house that has a kitchen, that has a separate bathroom and a separate entrance where no one could come in whenever they want, it's totally locked, it's totally private, this is sufficient. If not, you have to move out and get her a house outside. Abdullah from Canada.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, Sheikh. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair for asking.
Sheikh, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
Since we know that Eid is coming on Friday, inshallah, I always get confused when people say once you pray Salat al-Eid and you listen to its khutbah, you don't need to come to Salat al-Jummah. That always confuses me. Could you please explain this?
Okay. Any more questions?
One more question.
Yes.
So you know how the leader of the family, when giving udhiyah, they have to, till they don't give the qurbani, they don't have to cut their nails or their hair. Is this a sunnah or is this a farud?
Okay. I will answer it.
Jazakallah khair.
Hayyakallah. Okay, Ibrahim from Saudi Arabia.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Salatullah.
How are you, sir?
Hayyakallah, akhi. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing good. What can I do for you?
Alhamdulillah. Sheikh, I have a question. One of my friends, he talked to wife that if I do not get married, second one, he will be divorced. But he did not mention the time and within how many days he wanted to get married. But the intention in the mind, it was one talaq. So what is the ruling on this?
I did not understand your question. Your friend wanted to get married to another woman who was already divorced.
No, if he talked to the wife that if I do not get married, second one, then you will be divorced.
So he gave a condition. He told her, if I were to marry a second wife, you are divorced.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is his question?
The question is that if he did not want to get married now, so what is the ruling for this?
Okay. I will answer inshallah.
Thank you.
So Abdul Samad from Saudi Arabia, he says that he has problems while reciting the Quran. And sometimes his OCD is so strong that he may stop at a particular letter because he's unable to pronounce it correctly, and he may repeat it. So he says, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. So he says, does this invalidate my prayer? The answer is no, it does not invalidate your prayer. He says, because I feel that I am like mocking the Quran. That's a good feeling. Mocking the Quran? No, no, no. That you recognize it's a feeling. I always get the question, Sheikh, what's the ruling if I sit on the bed while my brother is sitting on the floor and he's reciting the Quran? Do I leave the fold of Islam because this is mocking the Quran? I'm asking you, are you mocking the Quran? I said, by Allah, no. I'm just lying on my bed. Then why do you say, do I leave the fold of Islam? Coming to you, Abdul Samad, when you repeat a letter or repronounce a word so that you perfect it, are you mocking the Quran? Do you intend to do that? I said, no, a'udhu billah. Then, akhi, why are you allowing Shaytan to mess with your head like this big time? So definitely this has nothing to do with mocking the Quran, and it does not impact your prayer. He says that sometimes as I'm reciting the Fatiha, I may pause in the middle to repeat a word or dhikr subhana rabbiyal azim, and he continues. So is this invalid? Does this invalidate my salat because it changes the meaning? The answer is no. Again, if you're doing this unwillingly or due to a loss of breath or due to wanting to repeat the word again, this has no impact on your prayer. And he says that I perform wudu and I get this feeling that my wudu is invalid now. So I ignore it and I pray. Would this invalidate my prayer? And he says that sometimes I feel like showing off. This is all I feel, perhaps, I think, maybe. Throw it in the dustbin. This is from Shaytan. Pause, look in the mirror and say to yourself, who are you making wudu for? So Allah. Why are you closing the tap so that the water coming out from the faucet is little? Are you doing it so that people would be impressed? Or do you usually do it when you make wudu on your own so that you conserve with using water? If you say, no, I always do it like this to conserve water, then you're on the right track. Ignore this. Your wudu is valid. And Shaytan is just simply messing up with your mind. Ahmed from the UK.
Sh.Assim from Saudi Arabia.
True. That's correct. Good remark.
How are you, brother?
I'm doing well. Jazakallah khair. What can I do for you?
Alhamdulillah. May Allah reward you for your series, Umdatul Ahkam.
Ameen.
I benefited from it. And inshallah, anyone who's watching, I advise them to watch it.
Jazakallah khair.
So I have 3 questions I'd like to ask.
Maximum is 3, akhi.
Yeah, free.
Okay.
Okay, so my first question, if you've advised someone to respect their parents, and you've advised them to read the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but then they shout back at you and they say that, how can they apply that to their situation? Does that person become a kafir?
Okay.
And my second question is, I think you've said in the past that deceased photos of deceased people is not permissible. So what's the ruling on watching like scholars such as Sheikh ibn Uthaymeen, Sheikh ibn Baz, others like Ahmed Didat as well? Is it permissible to watch their videos?
Okay.
And my third question, I apologize for bringing this topic up. It's just because I'm new to all this purity, but it was concerning tayammum al-wudu. The only thing that I do when going to wudu is rinsing mouth, rinsing nose, and wiping ears. As the other limbs, I can't go over. Is there a point of me doing wudu?
Can you? Are you the one with the eczema?
Yeah.
So what is it?
When I go to perform wudu,
yeah, what is it that you wash?
All I do is rinse my mouth, my nose, and I wipe over my ears. And the other limbs I can't go over.
Okay. I will answer inshallah, Ahmed.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
Wuzak. So I think we're about to finish. So let me see what I have here. Labib from Bangladesh, he says that I know that wearing gold for men is haram. What about using mobile phones and computer chips in the computers and the PDAs which operate using gold in their components? To my knowledge, this was used long ago, when that was the best conductor possible. Nowadays, I think they have what they call rare earth minerals that are way cheaper and much better performing in these devices. Therefore, there is no gold present, first of all. But hypothetically, that I cannot operate my PDA without these chips, and I need to use this, this is permissible for necessity. As scholars say that it is permissible to take a golden tooth. In the past, if you had a silver tooth, it would rot and have a bad smell to it, like silver does. So they used to put golden teeth. And the Prophet ﷺ, in one of the expeditions, one of the companions lost his nose through being hit by a sword that chopped it off. So he took a nose made of silver, and it stinked. So the Prophet ordered him and allowed him to take one made of gold. So for necessities, this is permissible, inshallah. But to my knowledge, this is not being used anymore, and Allah knows best. Secondly, he said that there is a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. And the origin of his question is that usually when we're asked about a family member, the father, working in an interest-based bank, and he deals in riba transactions, or he sells alcohol in his shop, and he brings the revenue and he feeds his wife and children. What's the ruling on that? The scholars say the reward and the benefit is for the people that he provides for, his dependents, and the sin and the burden is on the person earning. So the sin is on him. There's no sin on them, because they're not collaborating with him, and it is his responsibility to feed them, so that the money becomes halal. Why does the money become halal? Because this is the origin in Islam. The Prophet ﷺ was invited once by a Jew woman to eat lunch. So he went, accepted her invitation. The Prophet knows that the earning of the Jews is through usury and cheating people and dealing in interest. Yet he did not ask this woman, did you buy this sheep from haram money or from halal money? He simply ate, which means that it is sinful for her to earn, it is halal for us to eat and enjoy. And therefore, if a person, and this is related to the third question of his, if a person dies leaving a wealth which is mixed between haram money and halal money, like a person working in a bank or in an insurance company, or sells intoxicants, or sells cigarettes and tobacco and hookah, or whatever they call it, or sells or deals in entertainment, movies, music, all of this is haram earning. So now he's dead and we have the inheritance. What should we do with the money? Distribute it. It is halal for you as heirs of the deceased. He will be punished for it in his grave and on the day of judgment, inshallah azza wa jal, for his bad earning. So now, Brother Labib says, okay, I understood this concept of yours. My issue is that there is a hadith in Sahih Imam Bukhari where his servant once brought him food, and Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, was fasting. Usually he asks, where did you get the money from? Or where did you get the food from? This time he didn't. He ate one morsel. Then he remembered and he said, where did you get this food from? And the boy said, when I was a slave at pre-Islamic era, I pretended to be a soothsayer. So I predicted something in the future. I didn't know anything about it. I was just, conning them. And they believed me. Now, after Islam and after so many years, they saw me and they gave me this food. So Abu Bakr kept on putting his finger and trying to throw out what he had eaten, and he managed to do that with difficulty. So he's asking me now, if the earning of the servant was halal, why did Abu Bakr throw it up. First of all, no one had ever done this except Abu Bakr. All scholars say no one had ever threw up what they consumed of haram after knowing from the companions except Abu Bakr. Secondly, the servant belongs to Abu Bakr. The clothes on the servant is Abu Bakr. A slave belongs to his master and everything he earns. And that is why a slave can never inherit someone who's free. So if a son is a slave and his father is free and the father dies, the slave cannot inherit his father. Because then the master would take everything because I own the slave and what he possesses. So I hope this answers your question. Abdullah from Canada says, how is it that when we pray Eid, we can skip Jummah? This is what the Prophet said, alayhi salam. He said, today Eid and Jummah are on the same day. We will pray Eid and we will pray Jummah. Whoever prays one of them, that's sufficient for him. Not clipping the fingers and cutting the hair for someone who intends to offer the udhiyah, the slaughtering. Is it mandatory or is it voluntary? No, it is mandatory. And if you do, you're sinful for doing that. Ibrahim for Saudi Arabia, his friend said to his wife, if I marry someone else, you're divorced. This is a conditional divorce. If he intended to divorce her, once he marries the second one, she's divorced. But if he just said that to ensure her or to give her comfort or to scare her or to encourage her to do something, this is an oath. He has to feed 10 poor people. Ahmed says, I asked someone to read the seerah and to be respectful to his parents. So he shouted and said, what would that do to my case? Is this kufr? The answer is no. It's not kufr. What people say at times of rage or what they say related to their situation, not to the seerah. He's not at all talking about the seerah or about the obligation of respecting your parents, but he is venting. So if he was making fun, yes, this is kufr. But in such cases, usually it is not. Secondly, what is the ruling on watching videos of deceased people? Scholars all say that videos are different from taking photos. So watching videos is not prohibited and it's totally permissible when the person is deceased. And finally, his question about the not being able to perform wudu due to his skin condition. He can only rinse his mouth and nose and wipe his ears. In this case, no. The vast majority of your wudu is not there, so you only perform tayammum for that, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have, and until we meet next week, inshallah, I'll leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين